That was the day we had been waiting for. Half a month had passed, and Yeon-hwa and I had finished preparing to appeal to the magistrate. But the plan took an unexpected turn. That morning, Man-deuk came directly to our house. Behind him followed the village head and several people. I was sweeping the courtyard, and Yeon-hwa was cooking in the kitchen. "Do-yun, come out for a moment." Man-deuk's voice was different from usual, heavy and firm. I put down the broom and went out. "What is this about?" "It's about your debt." Man-deuk pulled out a paper from his robe. It was the ledger. "It's over 21 seok now. It's become too much for you to repay through work. So here's what I'm thinking. If you give up that rice paddy behind your house, I'll reduce your debt by half." I stared at him in shock. That paddy was the only one my father had left. Though small, the rice from that paddy could cover half a year's food. Think about it. The way things are now, you won't be able to repay this debt even if you work your whole life. So giving up the paddy and reducing the debt would be good for you too, wouldn't it? Man-deuk said with a smile. But hidden in that smile was coercion. "Let's write a new document today. The village head is here and we have witnesses, so let's settle this cleanly." Then Yeon-hwa came out from the kitchen. She wore her usual blank expression, but I knew what lay behind that expression. "Elder, no," Yeon-hwa said quietly. "If you're going to write a new document, shouldn't we first verify the witness seals?" "Witness seals?" Man-deuk frowned. "Yes, of course they need to be stamped." "Why?" "No, not just the new document, the old one too." Yeon-hwa came out to the courtyard and looked around at the people. The village head and those who had followed Man-deuk, and villagers who had gathered one by one after hearing the news. The courtyard filled with people. "What are you talking about?" "I heard that when my father-in-law borrowed grain 10 years ago, there were witnesses too. I'd like to confirm exactly what terms those witnesses agreed to." Man-deuk's expression hardened. He glared sharply at Yeon-hwa. "Why is your wife interfering in this? A woman in men's business." "My husband's business is my business too," Yeon-hwa answered calmly. Then she pulled out a paper from her robe. It was the comparison ledger she had made. "Actually, I've been doing some research at the market since last month. What the rice prices were 10 years ago, how interest should be properly calculated." What? Man-deuk stepped forward with a flustered expression. "What is that paper?" "A comparison ledger." Yeon-hwa unfolded the paper. Villagers murmured and moved closer. "Look here. 10 years ago, in the autumn of the year of the horse, there was a famine and rice prices went up, but it was still 3 nyang per seok. My father-in-law borrowed 10 seok, so it was worth 30 nyang. Yeon-hwa pointed at the numbers with her finger. "But in Elder No's ledger, it's written as 50 nyang. I'm curious why that is." Silence fell. Man-deuk's face reddened. "Well, that year there was a famine, so rice prices went up even more." "No, they didn't," Yeon-hwa said calmly. "I went directly to the merchants who sold rice at the market that year and asked them. They all remembered it was 3 nyang per seok. Here are their confirmation seals." Yeon-hwa pulled out another paper. There really were seals from several merchants stamped on it. People gasped in surprise and whispered, That's... Man-deuk stuttered. He looked around. He could see people's eyes had changed, eyes of suspicion. And then there's the interest calculation. Yeon-hwa didn't stop. "Elder No, you said you charge 30% interest annually. But when I look at the actual ledger, you've been adding interest to the amount of principal plus interest. This is compound interest. Usually in private transactions, simple interest is the custom." "When did I ever say I use compound interest?" Man-deuk shouted. "I don't know what calculations you've done, but my ledger is accurate." "Then let's call the witness." Yeon-hwa remained calm. "The person who witnessed when my father-in-law borrowed grain 10 years ago is here." Yeon-hwa raised her hand and pointed among the people. An old farmer awkwardly stepped forward. It was Old Man Kim. "Old Man Kim, do you remember? 10 years ago, autumn of the year of the horse." Old Man Kim looked uncomfortable as he glanced between Man-deuk and Yeon-hwa. "I do remember, but what exactly were the terms you witnessed?" "Well, Scholar Baek borrowed 10 siok of rice and was to repay 12 siok the following autumn. That's what I heard. 12 siok? Yeon-hwa asked again. Yes, 10 siok principal plus 2 siok interest. It was 20% interest. People murmured. No Man-deuk's face grew even redder. No, old man Kim, your memory is wrong. It was 30%. No, it wasn't. Old man Kim shook his head. I remember because I also borrowed grain at that time. Even in famine years, 20% was the custom. 30% is too high. What do you think you're doing? No Man-deuk tried to approach old man Kim, but people blocked him. The atmosphere had changed. People's expressions were shifting from suspicion to certainty. And there's more. Yeon-hwa pulled out another paper. I calculated the days my husband worked over the past 10 years. It's approximately 600 days. At 1.5 do per day, that's 900 do. That's 9 siok. So half went to debt, making it 4.5 siok. No, Man-deuk interjected. No. In this ledger, it's written as 3 siok. Yeon-hwa pointed to No Man-deuk's ledger. People craned their necks to look. That only counts the days actually received, excluding rainy days and holidays. Then shouldn't the ledger show exactly how many days were worked? Here it just says approximately. No Man-deuk was speechless. He began to sweat. And this is also strange. Yeon-hwa didn't stop. Last autumn, when my husband received rice as wages, the market price was 10 mun per do, but Elder No calculated it at 15 mun. Why did you calculate the same rice at a higher price? That's because the rice from my granary is better rice. Then why did you calculate at market price when lending? Cheap when lending, expensive when collecting. Is this fair trading? People murmured. No Man-deuk stuttered. Are you trying to make me out to be a fraud? No, I'm simply confirming the facts. Yeon-hwa looked around at the people. Many of you here have also borrowed grain from Elder No. Please check. Isn't the price when borrowing different from the price when repaying? Silence fell. Then one person spoke up. It was Choi Geum-rai. I experienced that too. She stepped forward. 5 years ago at my husband's funeral, I borrowed 3 siok of rice. The market price was 4 nyang per siok, but Elder No calculated it as 5 nyang. Me too. Park Seok-gi stepped forward. 3 years ago during the autumn famine, I borrowed 1 sok of rice. The market price was 4 nyang, but in the ledger it was written as 6 nyang. One by one, people began to speak. Truths that had been suppressed burst forth. No Man-deuk's face turned pale. Wait! Everyone wait! No Man-deuk raised his hands. There seems to be a misunderstanding. I may have remembered the prices wrong. Then let's show the ledger to the magistrate and get his judgment. Yeon-hwa said. No, there's no need to go that far. Why not? If you have nothing to hide, showing it to the magistrate shouldn't be a problem. No Man-deuk looked around with a panicked expression. People's eyes had gone cold. Do-yun? No Man-deuk suddenly smiled at me. It was a forced smile. Haven't we been together for 10 years? If I've wronged you, forgive me. Let's forget about the patty and the debt. I'll reduce the debt by half. By half? I asked. No Man-deuk nodded. Yes, half. No, I can reduce it even more. We don't need to make this into such a big deal, do we? But it was already too late. The ledger Yeon-hwa had prepared, old man Kim's testimony and people's confessions. Everything had been revealed. Elder No. For the first time, I looked him straight in the eye and spoke. For 10 years, I trusted you. Even while hearing people mock me as gentle, as stupid, I endured. I believed that someday I could repay the debt and be free. My voice trembled. But you deceived me. From beginning to end, you deceived my father, deceived me, deceived the people of this village. No, Do-yun. That's not. Now we're going to the magistrate. I turned to Yeon-hwa. She nodded. Wait, Do-yun. No Man-deuk tried to grab my arm. But people blocked him. Move aside. Do you know who I am? In this village, we know. Choi Geum-rai said. You're the most powerful person in this village. But you use that power to deceive us. Now you must pay the price. No Man-deuk staggered backward. The confidence drained from his face. Fear seeped in instead. "You people! How dare you!" He tried to threaten, but the words wouldn't come out properly. Only incoherent phrases tumbled out. "After all I've done for you, given you work, lent you grain, so you could bind us for life?" Park Seok-gi retorted. "We're grateful you lent to us, but we cannot forgive you for deceiving us." No Man-deuk fell silent. He seemed to acknowledge defeat. His figure standing in the courtyard was pitiful. The man who once controlled this entire village now stood before the cold stares of the people. "We will all go to the magistrate," Yeon-hwa declared. "We will testify to everything we saw and heard today, and we will show him these ledgers. The magistrate will judge fairly." People nodded, and one by one they began to leave the courtyard. No Man-deuk stood there in a daze. As Yeon-hwa and I were the last to leave the courtyard, No Man-deuk said in a low voice, "You'll regret this. All of you." I didn't look back. His threats now sounded hollow. We had the truth, we had each other, and we had courage. That afternoon, all the villagers gathered. It wasn't 11 people. It was over 20. People from other villages had joined after hearing the news. All were people who owed debts to No Man-deuk. Together we headed to the government office. Carrying the ledger Yeon-hwa had made, each preparing their testimony, ready to speak the truth. The road to the government office was long, but our steps were not heavy. More than 20 people walked together. People who had spent their whole lives with their heads bowed were now walking with their backs straight. But when we arrived at the gates of the office, something unexpected happened. No Man-deuk was already there. Standing beside him was a stranger. A lean man with sharp, piercing eyes. "Do-yun." No Man-deuk looked at me and spoke. His voice had regained its old confidence. "There's one thing to sort out before you go any further." "What is it?" "It's about your wife." Yeon-hwa. No Man-deuk turned to look at Yeon-hwa. "This gentleman is Yu Sang-gil, a distant relative of Yeon-hwa's, and it seems he has money owed to him by your wife." "What do you mean?" Yeon-hwa asked quietly. Yu Sang-gil stepped forward. "Are you the daughter of Yu Jinsa?" "I am. Your father borrowed 30 silver coins from me 5 years ago. He passed away before he could repay it. Surely that debt passes to his children." Yeon-hwa answered calmly. "I have no knowledge of such a thing." "Do you have proof?" Yu Sang-gil reached into his robe and produced a document. "Right here, with Yu Jinsa's seal on it." Yeon-hwa took the document. I looked over her shoulder. Sure enough, her father's name was written there, and a seal was stamped upon it. "This..." Yeon-hwa's face hardened. The crowd around us began to murmur. "Everyone look at this!" No Man-deuk called out loudly. "This woman has been digging into other people's debts while hiding the debt from her own family? Can anyone trust a word she says?" The expressions on people's faces wavered. Doubt began to creep in. No Man-deuk smiled with satisfaction. "Do-yun, your wife has been deceiving you. She came into this marriage hiding a debt she owed. Why don't you divorce her now, and you and I will quietly settle things between us? That would be best for everyone." I looked at Yeon-hwa. She was staring at the document, quietly for a long moment. Then slowly she raised her head. "This document is a forgery." "What?" Yu Sang-gil shouted. "A forgery? It has a seal and a witness signature right there." "The date is wrong to begin with." Yeon-hwa spoke with perfect calm. "It says the 6th month, 5 years ago. But my father passed away in the 4th month of that same year. How could he have borrowed money 2 months after his own death?" The crowd murmured again. Yu Sang-gil's face went rigid. I must have remembered the date wrong. It would have been the 4th month." "Then who is the witness?" Yeon-hwa pointed to the document. "It says a certain Park here." "Who is this person?" He has already passed away." "How very convenient. A witness no one can verify." Yeon-hwa held the document up to the light. "And now look at this seal." She showed it to the crowd. "The edges are blurred. A properly stamped seal has a clean, sharp outline, but this one looks as though it has been rubbed from another document and transferred here." I stared at Yeon-hwa in astonishment. How could she possibly have known to look for something like that? "That's absurd!" Yoo Sang-gil cried, but his voice was trembling. "Everyone, look at the witness signature." Yeon-hwa continued. "It says Park, but the handwriting is identical to the main body of the document. A genuine witness writes in their own hand. This looks as though the same person wrote everything." People passed the document around, examining it closely. Yeon-hwa was right. The handwriting was far too similar. And there is one final decisive point. Yeon-hwa reached into her robe and drew out another paper. "This is the last letter my father ever wrote before he passed. My mother kept it all these years. His seal is stamped upon it." She placed the two documents side by side. "Compare them. The seals are different sizes. The seal on the debt document is slightly larger. And if you look closely, the characters inside are subtly different." Silence fell. Yoo Sang-gil began to sweat. This can't be." "Elder, no." Yeon-hwa turned to face Man-deuk. "How much did you pay this man to create this document?" The color drained from Man-deuk's face. Why would I heard a rumor that someone had been coming and going from your house these past few days. This man, Yoo Sang-gil, he is a distant relative, yes, but so distant that my father had barely ever met him. And now he appears out of nowhere with a debt document? Does that not strike you as strange? People looked back and forth between Man-deuk and Yoo Sang-gil. Neither man spoke. "This document is a forgery." Yeon-hwa's voice was firm and unwavering. "Elder No orchestrated this to divide us and destroy the trust the people have placed in us." "Where is your proof?" Man-deuk shouted. But the force had gone out of his voice. "The proof is the document itself. The date, the witness, the seal, none of it holds up. And furthermore," she looked directly at Yoo Sang-gil, "someone heard what this man said in a tavern just a few days ago." Choi Gum-rai stepped forward. "I heard it myself. He was drunk, boasting that he had found a way to get his hands on big money from the wealthy No. Said it was easy work that paid well." Yoo Sang-gil stumbled backward. That was enough," Yeon-hwa said simply. "Elder No, deceiving the people was not enough for you. Now you have stooped to forgery. This is no longer a matter of private debts. This is a crime." At that very moment, the gates of the government office swung open, and an official stepped out. "What is all this commotion?" Everyone turned at once. The official frowned as he looked over the crowd. I stepped forward. "We have a matter to bring before the magistrate. The wealthy landowner Man-deuk has been deceiving and exploiting dozens of the people in this village. We have evidence. We have witnesses." The official considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Come inside. I will inform the magistrate." We entered the government office. Man-deuk and Yoo Sang-gil were brought in after us. Magistrate Yang was every bit as upright and incorruptible as his reputation suggested. He listened to everything we had to say from beginning to end. He examined Yeon-hwa's comparison ledger. He heard each person's testimony. He reviewed the forged debt document. Man-deuk. The magistrate's voice was low and deliberate. "How do you explain this evidence? These testimonies?" Man-deuk sank to his knees. Every trace of his arrogance had vanished. "Your Honor, there has been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" The magistrate held up the comparison ledger, calculating prices that do not match the market rate, deceiving people by using compound interest instead of simple interest, failing to properly record the days your laborers worked. Is all of that a misunderstanding? And this forged document, how do you explain it? The date is wrong. The seal does not match. The witness cannot be verified. The magistrate turned to Yoo Sang-gil. "Who are you?" Yoo Sang-gil's voice shook. I am a distant relative of Yoo Jin-sa. "Did Man-deuk pay you to create a false document?" Tell the truth. Lying will only make your punishment heavier." Yoo Sang-gil finally broke. "Yes, he paid me. 5 silver coins and I made the document." A wave of shock rippled through the hall. The magistrate nodded slowly. "No, Man-deuk, you defrauded the people under your care and took unjust profit from them. You fabricated documents to harm an innocent woman. These are grave offenses. Your Honor, please have mercy. I was wrong. No Man-deuk pressed his forehead to the floor. But the magistrate did not waver. The sentence is as follows. No Man-deuk will receive 50 strokes of the rod and will return all property unjustly taken to its rightful owners. He is furthermore banned from holding any public office for the next 3 years. Your Honor, Sang-gil will receive 30 strokes for the crime of forgery. The money he received from No Man-deuk will be confiscated. The magistrate turned to face us. People, I am moved by the courage and unity you have shown here today. In particular, you, Yeon-hwa. Yeon-hwa bowed her head. Yes, Your Honor. The comparison ledger you created is a remarkable piece of work. In a world where literate women are rare, the wisdom you have demonstrated is truly admirable. You are far too kind. This ledger will serve as a model for other villages throughout the region so that the people will never again suffer such injustice. He turned to his officials. Bring all of No Man-deuk's ledgers. Cross-reference every transaction against the market rates of the time and calculate the true amounts owed. Everything taken in excess must be returned. Several days later, the results came in. My debt was found to be not 20 siak, but less than 3. In fact, when everything I had already worked was properly counted, No Man-deuk was the one who owed money to me. The same was true for the others. Most had already repaid their debts in full, or had only a small amount remaining. No Man-deuk received his punishment. A significant portion of his wealth was returned to the people he had wronged. His power crumbled overnight. The villagers no longer feared him. That night, Yeon-hwa and I sat in our courtyard and looked up at the moon. It's over, Yeon-hwa said quietly. Yes, it's over. Were you frightened? She asked. I was. But having you beside me, that was what carried me through. Yeon-hwa took my hand. Her hand was cool but steady and strong. How shall we live from here? Quietly, I said. We'll tend the fields, grow what we need. Without being deceived, but without holding hatred either. Without being deceived, but without hatred. Yeon-hwa turned the words over softly. That is a beautiful way to live. To know the truth and yet not be consumed by bitterness. That is exactly how I want to live. One autumn afternoon, I came home from the harvest to find Yeon-hwa sitting in the courtyard with paper spread before her, writing. What are you writing? A record. She looked up with a smile. I am writing down everything that happened to us. Someday when we have children, I want to tell them this story. What story? The story of people who were caught in a trap and found their way out. Who were deceived but woke up. And most of all, who were able to overcome it not because they were alone, but because they were together. I sat down beside her. The page was filled with words close and careful. Our story. The village's story. The long, patient journey toward the truth. Yeon-hwa. Yes? Thank you. For what? If it weren't for you, I would have spent my whole life in that trap. Called gentle, called simple, and never even knowing I was being deceived. Yeon-hwa shook her head. No, you already knew. You knew something was wrong. You just couldn't do anything about it alone. Neither could I. She took my hand. We saved each other. Together we broke the trap. Together we found our freedom. The sun sank below the hills. Golden light fell across the courtyard. In the distance, we could hear our neighbors calling out their evening greetings. Close by, the birds were singing. Morning came. A new day began. I rose and stepped out into the courtyard. Yeon-hwa was already awake, preparing breakfast. Our daughter was playing in the yard. It was an ordinary morning. The beginning of a day with nothing remarkable about it. But I knew how precious this ordinariness was. How priceless this freedom. We were no longer trapped, no longer bound to anyone's ledger. We were free. Poor but free. Plain but dignified. Quiet but unbreakable. And above all, we were together. That was enough. That was more than enough.